Doris Emma Titchen was born 4 January 1899 to Ernest and Emma C. Titchen. She rode in wagons when she was a little girl, mostly from Bluewater to Raymond, New Mexico. She had chores, milking cows, and the like as a young woman. She was the last of Emma C.'s children, one of 9 kids. Her sister Augusta was 5 years her senior. We read about the romance that begins between William and Doris Emma Titchen, first precipitated by William meeting Ernst Titchen on a train from Salt Lake to Grand Junction, Colorado. They talk. William describes that he's a great shearer of sheep, but prefers raising cattle. Ernest asked William to have a drink and smoke a cigar, and he refuses both. Ernest jokingly says, "You must be a Mormon." William admits he is that. Ernest asked him if he would like to write to his youngest daughter, Doris Emma. He says he would and writes a note with an envelope and letter. Ernest gives it to his daughter, Doris Emma. Doris was in shock, could not believe what her father had done, but she goes to her niece Clara to talk it over with her about the envelope and note. They decided there would be no harm in writing Mr. Willie Child. The letter became more personal, and one day a package arrives. When she opens it while walking, she finds a box of chocolates, and she goes directly to Clara. They were amused with the candy, but in one of the cups was a yellow sapphire ring. Clara asked her, "What are you going to do?" She said, "I don't have the slightest idea, not yet. I have to think about it." They went to a dance, and someone asked her about the ring. Clara answered she got it out of a box of candy. Doris Emma smiled. She had already written a long 7-page letter. The contents of these letters are in Dorsider Black's book. Doris was living in Bluewater, New Mexico, and William in Salt Lake City during this time. They continued writing and eventually married in the Salt Lake Temple on November 6, 1924. William was 37 years old and she was 25. Their first home was in Fairview, Wyoming, where William's mother, Amanda, was caring for William and many child's 3 children, Kenneth, Howard, and Grace. It was there that Marion Amy was born November 18, 1925, named after Doris Emma's friend of Blanding, Amy Stevens Black. Doris Emma was a bit homesick. The following year, William moved her and their 4 children to Bluewater, New Mexico. His mother, Amanda and EmmaChild, remained in Wyoming. They lived with recent widow Emma C. Titchen. William treated her with great respect and love. Kenneth was 14, Howard 11, and Grace was 9. Marion was a baby. A sister of Doris, Annie Stevens, died giving birth to Horace Child at age 11 that Doris and her mother raised also. Doris Emma preferred to call Willie as William. After all, he was 6'2", tall, and he had broad shoulders. He began to build a house on the north end of Bluewater. Water was scarce. William had sold his ranch and stock in Wyoming, but was never paid for it. A second daughter, Dorsider, was born December 3, 1926, and a son, Warren Titchen-Child, May 1, 1928. Their grandmother, Emma C. Titchen's home is where they lived. William's older kids were growing up. Kenneth was, at 23, married Rose Brown, a school teacher and singer from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Having a difficult time making a living, they moved to San Francisco. Howard had been driving trucks to California, and Grace moved and worked in laundry. Grace roomed with Doris's niece, Carolyn Johnson, and friend Della Raines. Howard later proposes to Della for marriage. She agrees. Grace returns to Blue Water and marries Robert Thompson from Gallup, New Mexico in 1936. They move back to San Francisco. In 1930, William's only brother, Elman, moved his family from Salt Lake to Blue Water with his mother, Amanda Taylor Childs. She lived with Elman. In 1931, William moved to Salt Lake City. The Depression was hard, but William taught school, drove an ambulance, struggled to make a living. William enjoyed entertaining others, taught Sunday school. William was very sick with double pneumonia that took him a while to recover. Amanda died in Blue Water while William was in Salt Lake City. Him and Elman brought her body to Ogden for burial. MSC came and lived with them a year in Salt Lake, and then in 1935 they all moved back to Blue Water. Doris washed all the clothes by hand. There was no electricity in Blue Water. October 19th, 1937, another daughter, Gwendolyn, was born, and in December, DorisEmma's mother died. It was very difficult to make a living in Blue Water. William worked odd jobs. They sold their home and moved into DorisEmma's mother's home. His gardens were not very dependable harvests, therefore they struggled. In 1938, William rode to San Francisco to seek employment and found one as a gardener on a big estate, La Honda. His family moved to be with him. December 16, 1940, a daughter is born, Augusta Laree, and Mother DorisEmma came home on Christmas Eve. Rationing during World War II made things even tighter. And in 1942, William and family lived in Monticello, Utah. He gets hurt in an accident of his foot. They moved to New Mexico. Doris worked in a weapons factory in Fort Wingate. Marion and Doris Ida graduates high school in 1944. Marion was sent to BYU, Provo, Utah. Corporate farming put a real strain on farmers, putting them out of business, including William. Many people came through on old Route 66 to California. Poor migrants from Oklahoma. William and Doris moved to Blanding. Doris Ida married in 1947, and Warren went on a church mission to the western states, mostly in Texas. Warren returned home from his mission, and he was working, and a truckload of lumber fell on him. He told Merrill many times he went to the other side of the veil and had come back to his wife with Quijada and children. He did not die. William and DorisEmma did their missionary work with the Native Americans. Doris would bathe Indian kids in their tub for the first time. The home was filled with music, friendship, and happiness. William and Doris worked on family history and moved to Manti in 1953. Gwen attended Snow College. They rented their home in Blanding, but were not receiving payments for rent. William and Doris cared for a small motel near the temple in Manti. They lived there until they could afford a nicer home. Gwen was about 20 and Laree 17 when DorisEmma contracted cancer and fell ill in 1957 and died in April 9th, 1958, and was buried in Manti. Marion drove from Richmond, California to Manti, Utah. Gwen moved to Chester, Utah. Warren was in Blue Water, and Doris Ida in Blanding, Utah. William was lonely, but eventually meets a Dottie Behrman and marries her for a time in Manti. They moved to Red Mesa, Colorado. It was November 1961. He made repairs to the home she had, bought a cow for milk supply. He gave Dottie some red boots. The next morning he went for breakfast to get milk. Later he becomes ill. Dottie calls for an ambulance, but he dies on his way to the hospital. An artery had ruptured in his heart. This short story comes from the book of Doris Ida Black. And the history and in memory of DorisEmmaChild and William Warren Child and their children.